Our objective here is to come up with the sort of top 5 things that we're looking to say, okay, how am I judging this as far as, do I have a good grasp of what I absolutely need to know? So I'm going to go with black as being top 5, not top 5 things. Now again, some things on AP questions, they're never going to ask you. They're never going to ask you, like, what is the H3PO4? What's the name of this? They're never going to ask you. That's an honors chemistry question. So there are some things that, yeah, if you can't name acids, you're in trouble. I get that. But we're looking at actual content, concepts in this particular section, and see how close you get to my top 5 as far as judging what we think might be most needed. I mean, this is to get, not to get, if you don't know these things, you could get a 1. All right, so I would say, one of the things here would be probably weak acids, and I would probably say, can you calculate the pH of a weak? Right? Can you calculate the pH of a strong? If you screw this up, you should be anticipating that this is like the most common problems here. Other things that probably would put on here. Again, that's a little more specific. I've seen some people that, how you describe it's different. Okay. Other things here that are absolutely probably essential. Like if you can't do this, you're probably going to have a problem. I would say titration. Okay? And I would say titration, then we say, how we model it. That's 1, 2, 3, and I would say a calculation of here would be concentrations of unknown. I mean, that's going to be something that is really, really common. I got 4 things here. I would say probably maybe of a similar idea, same vein, would be modeling a weak acid. Can you model a weak acid? Can you model a strong acid in a beaker? I would say if I had to, this is a big bulk of what we want. All right? I mean, if you can't do these things, then you're in deep trouble. Okay? So let's take a minute of pause here, and let's add in what we think might be like the next level of things. Okay? And maybe it wouldn't be, but I'm going to pause it again. Add in a few more things to your drawing. Put this in blue. Okay, so next things. So we're looking to add in a few things that, I'm not saying these are less important, but they may just be less common on tests. And maybe if you got these wrong, you could still get a 3. Maybe if you're looking for a little higher grade. Other things I think might be super important, like very important. Okay, just not, like, you'll see what I mean. Okay, so one I would say would be like, all right, the molecular shapes. What causes something to be acidic on a molecular level? We talk about, for example, H2SO4 versus, let's say, H2SO3. And we've talked about the bonds and things. HF versus HCl. Okay. Other things might be probably pretty common, might be, let's say, mixing, neutralization. So we're talking about net ionic equations, and being able to do some of that stuff is probably not uncommon. When I mentioned modeling, that's going to go off of this whole thing where we're going to be able to pick out what beakers look like what and pick out points on this curve. Other things. Does anybody have anything else they added in? Yeah? Yeah, I'd say that's probably going to be here. It might even be the next rung up, but polyprotic, okay. Polyprotic. Anything else? You think, yeah?
Salts or conjugates.
Ah, okay. That could maybe be here, but let's go here. Neutralization reactions, then that produces salts, and that's something that, yeah, I mean, understanding salts is something that it's not going to get you, if you don't have those, it's not going to probably cost you much more than 1 or 2 points, maybe, on a certain year. Anybody else, anything else? Yep. I'd probably, well, it depends how you put that. If you're referring to the chart, okay, I'd probably get ready to consider that there. But I'd probably, I'm going to flip this to a different color, red, and this is, I'm going to add this here, okay. Is there anything on here that you think is like top tier? Like, if you want a 5, this is going to be something that we need to know. Take a moment, jot it in. A couple of things here that I'm going to add on here. And back in blue, I just jogged my memory a little bit here. Other things I think might be pretty common here that you probably will be in the realm of, you will see it. Calculations, not of pH, but of, let's say, Ka. Solving for Ka might be something that they could ask you to do. Or percent ionization. That is something that shows up relatively often. Okay? But isn't, as common as maybe this one. Okay? Other than that, things I might think would be top tier that I wouldn't worry about unless I had all this other stuff figured out. Like, I wouldn't worry about the blue until I got black figured out. I wouldn't worry about the red until I got the blue figured out. Because this comment is buffers. Okay? Again, it's not that if you want to get right at the top, then you got to have this mastered too. So that would be, it just isn't as common. I'm not saying there's not some stuff there that you should understand. But if you didn't do any buffers, would you get a 1 on this test? Probably not. Okay? But calculating out the concentrations and determining your neutralization point and determining the pH at some point along a titration. That means here you can map it out, you can find the concentration of unknown, but to find the pH at some point along the way, just mathematically, via the buffer system and the ice tables, probably less common. So our second quiz was a lot of that stuff. So some people have issues here where they're so caught up trying to do the calculations of buffers that they mess up all the main stuff. Anything else here that someone put on theirs that they thought was top notch that wasn't mentioned, or something that wasn't mentioned here? Did I forget anything? Anybody?